Welcome back, friends. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on creating a comparison between BetterPress and hot foiling using press and foil plates when using layering stencils. Now, these are two press plates from Yana's newest collection, Yana Smakula, with Spellbinders titled Yana's Tulips. These both are large press plates that will cover the front of an A2 card, so I thought they would be perfect for this comparison. We're going to do one with BetterPress, and then we're going to do the actual layering stencil, and we're going to do the other one with hot foil with our glimmer machine, and we're also going to use the layering stencils. So this first one here, we'll go ahead and BetterPress, and I'm going to walk you through both techniques so that you can see both in full and you can see the full comparison yourself. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually foil all of your BetterPress. For some reason, this is still something that a lot of people don't realize. Now, when you're doing a full plate like this in the BetterPress, I like to tape from behind so that I can get a full coverage on my plate, on my paper, in other words. And so I'm lightly tapping my full black ink pad here. This is BetterPress ink that I'm using for the cleanest, most crisp print. And I'm going to go ahead and press that using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. And this is the beautiful result. So I'm going to pull that off and we will have that ready to go. Now, when I clean my plates, I always use LDRS Extreme Clean because it is my preferred method of cleaning to remove as much ink as possible. I hate staining on my plates, and this is what I have found works the best. It is good to clean immediately, no matter what cleaner you're using, just for the best results ever. Now, Extreme Clean is a cleaner by LDRS Creative. I do have a 15% discount if you're ever shopping at LDRS Creative, so feel free to use my coupon code Melanie15. So now I'm going to tape a second piece of BetterPress paper. I'm using porcelain in this example today. And I'm going to tape this on the corners since I'm not needing the entire panel. And we're going to go ahead and press out the sentiments from Yana's collection. I thought I would give us options, so I thought I would do multiple sentiments for this project. So here are those sentiments, and we'll be able to use those later on. Now for the hot foiling, I'm using I'm trying to think of the name of the foil. I'll run it along the bottom of the screen. I believe it's Aura. It's a gold, like, holographic. It's very beautiful. And I'm laying that just slightly over the BetterPress plate. And I have put the foil shiny side towards the plate and the gray side towards the actual paper. That gray side is the glue. So if you can remember, the glue needs to touch the paper and the shiny needs to touch the plate. No matter how you're foiling, you'll always remember the layers of your sandwich. So now we'll go ahead and also do hot foiling of the sentiments here as well. So we have options with them too. And I did have to turn that on to be heating up, but I am actually fast forwarding through the portions of that so you don't have to wait on the machine. But it does take about 60 seconds between each process. Now, I did cut some of those off, but there are 3 sentiments there that we can still pick from. Now, I thought I would show you the reverse foiling of this. So remember, shiny side to the plate, gray side to the paper. That's glue to the paper, no matter which way you're hot foiling, because right now the plate is down on the surface. So it's kind of opposite, but if you ring true to those rules, you will always know where to put things. Now, I was leaving it there just for a second to give it a little extra time heating. And that's really good when you're using a really large plate like this. Now that is the Pink Fresh reverse plate that I'm using there. And here we go. We have got 2 reverse foils that we can then die cut out to have even more options when we die cut or when we put our sentiments on later. So I'm just going to die cut those out real quick using my Anna Griffin machine. And those will be ready to use later. See that holographic being picked up by my lights? So pretty. And that's what the reverse sentiment looks like. So we have regular sentiments and reverse sentiments. And remember, you can always use that extra foiled piece as embellishments or anything like that. So now we're going to go ahead and begin our stenciling. This is the beautiful tulip background. I just love these windmills. It reminds me so much of my trip to Holland. I went for 2 weeks during tulip season when I was a little girl. Just me and my mother. It was a wonderful tour, and we had so much fun. Now I'm choosing some newer to me color options that I have just gotten from Altenew, and I'll make sure all of the color families that I use are down in the description below in my virtual supply list. All those lists are, or all of my list is affiliate links, and all those affiliate links do give me a small commission when shopping through them at no extra charge to you. So I appreciate when you do that and support me in my journey here so that I can continue to inspire you. So I'm giving an extra definition here. So I went over first with the mid yellow, and then I'm going here with the lemonade stand. It's a little darker, and I'm going just at the base of each of these flowers just to give it some extra dimension. When you add two colors to one opening of the stencil, you really add a step or a level up. It elevates your ink blending. And that's what I'm doing here because these tulips are just one color through this stencil. They don't have multiple layers in this stencil set. So adding this extra color with a micro brush really does make a difference. Just add this extra little step. And you could do this with any of your stencils, with any of your florals. It really does make a difference. Our cards today are going to be very calming and soothing. They're not going to be bold and bright. I decided I wanted to really dig into these new colors that I have. And so we're going with more of a elegant, subtle kind of look in our cards today. So for these windmills, we're going to use some light browns in the the windmill itself. And it's going to be set up in the sky. It's going to be really pretty. When we were in Holland, we actually counted all the windmills that we saw during our trip. It was really fun. Just like when we drove across Texas as a child, we would count all of the oil refinery rigs that we saw out pumping oil out in the on the side of the road. But we had so much fun counting our windmills during the 2 weeks that we were there. I think I was 10 years old when I was in Holland. It was very fun. So here is Ginger Root. This is from one of those new collections that I was talking about. And just a little darker than my first color, just to give a little contrast to these windmills. And then we're going to work on the grass. I'm going to start with my lightest color to give the bulk of the greenery just a coating. Then they have a secondary color which darkens the background, and that's going to help with the coloration of the different colors in this field of beautiful tulips. They've got some right down here at the base of the actual horizon that is also there to color in. And you have to be really careful not to get up in your windmills. If you're nervous about it, make sure you mask that off. You can use some mint tape, which I think I do here in just a little bit when it's too close for me. And that is what I usually use when I'm in the craft room, is some mint tape right here. I like that for masking when I'm doing stenciling. So for Silverstone, I'm inking that off just a little bit up there on the solid part of the stencil, just so it's not too terribly dark. And you might see me go back into that, and that's just to pick up a little extra Sometimes I'll pick up the ink right off the stencil itself if I need just a little bit more. But this, I wanted it not to be too dark of a gray. So now I'm just moving that up so I can go down to the bottom portion now. And we're going to do the darker green at the bottom of this stencil. So I did not want any of that to go up into my windmills. So I just used that same horizontal line of tape to come down here and do all of this background greenery in our field. So I just got news from my doctor, just as a little update, that I do have some issues going on in my shoulder. So ink blending is probably going to have to come to a slow down in my life, and I'll be having to use my left hand most likely. So I haven't got all of the details yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll be going for cortisone shots and lots of physical therapy pretty soon. So keep me in your prayers, my friends. I would really appreciate that, especially with how much I use this right arm. And ink blending is my absolute favorite thing to do. So I'm just darkening in the little stems of all the flowers and those background bushes there on the horizon. And that finishes that at the bottom of our field. So now at the top, this gives you room for the clouds and then the buildings themselves, the bases of those windmills. Now, if you don't want to fill in the clouds, you just mask those off. Or you can hold off and later on come back at the end, which I'll show you, and you could use something else in there. You could use a paste, like maybe a glittery paste, or something like that if you want to add detail to the clouds. Or if you want to ink them in colors, like bring in some purples or some oranges. But for this project, I am just going to actually ink the sky itself. But I will show you what I mean as in when you would do that. So here I skip doing anything to the clouds right now. And I'm going to go ahead and do the sky now, which is the last stencil. And at first I go with the lightest blue that I've chosen. This is Blueberry. And I go and give it a complete dusting all the way through. I wanted this sky pretty light to go along with my lightish colors. And I didn't want, it to take away from the tulips. So we're going with a light dusting of this lightest color in the family. And then we're going to come back in and add more definition to the sky by giving it an outline. See, I wanted to see that softness. I'm totally going for a soft look here, but it looks a little bit dull. So I'm going to just bounce it up just a little bit, just a notch. We're going to bump it up just a notch by going in with a little more vivid, but not too much blue horizon, and we're going to go around the edges. Now remember, your inks always dry back when using dye ink. So this might look a little bright right now, but it does dry back perfectly to give us just the definition we need to highlight this picture. So there is our final picture. And this is what you would do if you wanted to come back in right now and use like some paste or something in there to do your clouds. But we're going to leave it just like this. And something else you could do is come in with markers. You could come in and fill the little doorways. You could do anything like that that you wanted on this piece. And I really love this background. Now here are some options for our sentiments. We have lots of different options, and remember we have that other one I showed you earlier too, but here are just different ways that we can do this. We'll have to figure out that at the end. I'll show you the final project at the end. So now we're switching over to our hot foil, and this is our daffodils, and then we have a little tulip at the top. So I'm choosing to go with yellows and purples. And we're going to make these centers really dark. But do you notice how I'm leaving the edges of the daffodils, even there in the centers, with a little less ink to where it gives you that little highlight of an area? I love doing that on large florals. And here you want to mask off this purple flower, or we're going to make it purple, but of course make it any color you wish. But we're going to mask that off because that flower is different than these daffodils are. So I'm going with the traditional colors of daffodils, but this I'm doing a little lighter than the center. just to give a pop in the center there. So here I'm going pretty light with this mid yellow, and I'm still keeping it lighter on those edges, those tips of the leaves, or petals, if you want to say petals for your flowers. And that area down towards the bottom right will be a little darker because it's kind of under things, but that's how I'm, I'll be or darkening it for that reason. Now, these are the new purples that I've gotten. I love these. They're dreamy, just like that dreamy periwinkle says. And they're kind of a dusty purple, but they're really nice, and I really enjoyed playing with them here. This is the lightest one, and we're going to fill that first stencil in with that. And then I decided to go ahead and give it a little definition by inking just the bottoms of the flowers there. And we're going to kind of do that 2 different times. First with the light and medium, then we're going to go in with the next stencil. And when we do the purples the second time, we're going to go medium dark, just to give it that extra oomph, if you could say that. I'm still really focusing though on, that dimension. I am leaving a tiny highlight there at the tippy top, but I wanted these to really have a little more dramatic to them. And so I added that deep there and used all of those colors. Really like the way it turns out. And remember, the hot foil is around these. And I love that because the yellow with the hot foil and the gold really is striking. So when you're using your hot foil, think about what colors you're actually going to be inking it in, because sometimes the hot foil really can add to that inking when you choose those hot foil colors. So you can see the hot foil right there already shining through, and it really does add an accent to your piece. So now we're going to switch over to the greenery. I love doing ink blending on the 9x13 sticky mat by Altenew. It really helps you not have to worry about your stencils moving and shifting. Same with your paper. And what I'm doing here, you just want to make sure your paper is a little smaller than your stencil. If for some reason you need your paper larger than your stencil, you will still need to use tape. The sticky mat will hold your paper, but it wouldn't then have a chance to hold your stencil. So just showing you there that I am still leaving a highlight there. And when you saw me pull that paper down towards the bottom, I was just getting some of the ink off from the darker color that I used last time and removing that darker ink so I could use that Misty Sage and get the lighter color ink. That's all I was doing with that scrap paper. So here, this is the darker color, and I'm just going in and darkening some of those areas on this stencil, which is your darkest area. So here is your comparison. You can see the differences. Here is your hot foil. The hot foil paper is very smooth to the touch. And then of course you see all of that shine between all of your petals. Now, when you get to the BetterPress paper, you have all of that texture from the BetterPress paper. So I hope this comparison has been helpful. Have an amazing day.